Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you very much. Firstly, it's my great pleasure to welcome all of you here today. We have three important tiers of government, three levels of government here, the national government, provincial, and the local government, to give information about where things are in relation to the special economic zone, and all the important information needed by stakeholders and the people of Atlantis regarding where we are in this process. So before we proceed into the formal part of the meeting, I think we also need to just be clear about one or two things. This meeting is a public participation meeting with a single agenda item, dealing with the special economic zone. It's not a church meeting. It's not a trade union meeting. It's not a community mass meeting about some problem where the city perhaps didn't take or remove dirt or whatever the case may be. This is a single agenda item, special economic zones, and that's what we're going to focus on. Secondly, there will be one or two people who do have concerns, genuine, legitimate community concerns. And if you have those concerns regarding any of the government departments where they perhaps did not respond to any of the real issues, the genuine issues of people, you have the right to take that up. But what we have arranged is right at the back, we have two people sitting there. Any specific community issue that you would like us to log and take up there, they're raising their hands. You know, can you just stand, please, if you don't mind? So the two of them are there to take down every specific problem you have, to log it, take down your name, your details, and then to get back to you. So those are the first 2 points I'd like to make. Is it accepted that this is a single agenda meeting? Okay? We accept that. Can we accept that other issues do not form part of this meeting? But what we do want to encourage is very robust, very strong, very critical intervention. It's very important for you to challenge and to test the presentations of each of the speakers. You have to ask the hard questions in this meeting, and then you will have an opportunity to give not just verbal input, but written input. You'll be able to then write up what you believe ought to happen, what should happen, whatever gap you identify, you'll then be able to make a written submission as well. So that opportunity for your voice not to be misunderstood, but to be clearly understood in a written, documented form, you will have that opportunity to do that as well. So just for the record, I'm Professor Brian Williams, and I also have my colleague Ayanda here with me. I know there are about 6 different languages that people speak, I'm told, who are sitting here today. So if there's any person who feels that they can only communicate in their mother tongue or in the language that they're comfortable with, we are not opposed to that. And so if there's a need for us to have interpretation or translation of any documents or information, we'll be happy to respond to that. But can we also then agree that for the purpose of this particular meeting, that the linking language would be English? And if people need to choose any other language to communicate in, or they feel comfortable to communicate in a different language, your right to do so is not excluded. Okay? But can we agree that for the purpose of today's meeting, we will use English as the medium of communication? Is that acceptable to everyone? Okay. Thank you very much. I'm now going to, yes? Yes, it's exactly what I said. If there's anyone who, for whatever reason, wants to communicate in their mother tongue, we'll be able to respond to that. Okay? But, sorry, yes? Yes? Yeah? Yes. Yes, no, I understand that as well.
And I think that is important,
Okay.
because sometimes we do understand,
Yes.
but the normal ordinary person in the community,
Yeah.
their language is Afrikaans.
We understand that as well. Thank you very, very much for that. So, as long as everyone understands clearly what is being said, if you do not understand and you feel you need to speak in your mother tongue, please do so, and we'll be able to then respond. I'm going to hand you now over to the director from the national government, who will deal with the protocols of the meeting and introduce the speakers. After each of the presentations, I will then facilitate the question and answer sessions, seek clarity with regard to where we need to go. And each of the speakers will also, in their sharing and contributions to provide information to you, clarify the different elements, the different objectives, the different areas and zones of purpose in their contributions. So, Maoto, the National Director, I'll hand it over to him now.
Thanks, Prof, and good morning, everyone. As you all know, the purpose of this meeting is precisely to discuss the application for the proposed Atlantis GreenCape SEZ. The application was sent or submitted by the provincial government in last year through the Department of Economic Development and City of Cape Town to focus on a number of things, but mainly to reindustrialize the Atlantis SEZ. So today, we're going to have a number of speakers speaking on various issues around the application, and thereafter, as Prof has indicated, you'll be given an opportunity to discuss that application. In terms of the process related to the application, this is a very legislated process. The designation would ultimately be made by the Minister of Trade and Industry. When the application is submitted to the DTI, it goes through a number of processes. There is what you call a SEZ advisory board. That's what assess the applications. If the advisory board is happy, they make recommendation to the Minister of Trade and Industry. And then the Minister of Trade and Industry will then publish that application for designation in order to provide public with an opportunity to submit comments. So this consultation is just but one of those consultations that we are undertaking for public comments. In our program, there are 4 speakers. The first one is Mr. Sipho Sigode, our Deputy Director General from Department of Economic Development, Department of Trade and Industry, responsible for Special Economic Zone and Economic Transformation. Following Mr. Zigode, we're going to have Mr. Solifori, who is the head of department, for the, which is the Department of Economic Development, mainly giving the remarks as well. After that, we're going to have a CEO for GreenCape, Mr. Mike McCurry, presenting on the application itself. And after Mike, we're going to have Lance Grading from the City of Cape Town as well. So I think without wasting much of our time, I'm going to give our DDG, Mr. Sipho Sigode, to provide us with remarks and the purpose of the public consultation, including the objectives of the SEZ program.
Thanks. Just before the DDG speaks, there are 2 vehicles blocking the access to this venue. It's a red Golf, a CN 16215, and then a black Tata, a CA 732644, and then a white Corolla Bucky, CA 534535. Those 3 vehicles, can you please assist in freeing up access to the venue? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Williams. Maoto, thanks very much for that brief introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it's very nice to be here in Atlantis again. Some of us have been coming to Atlantis, dealing with individual companies here that were locating here, that have applied for the incentives of government. A lot of companies were assisted through the national government, through the provincial government incentives. But the reason why we are here today, it's a journey that started some years ago, I think in the late 90s, when government decided that amongst one of its tools or programs to develop all the regions of South Africa will be through what was called then the industrial development zones. The industrial development zones were intended to develop the lagging regions in terms of economic activities and development. Obviously, we all know that industries in South Africa are clustered around 4 major areas. That is Gauteng, together with Pretoria. And then in KZN is Durban, Pietermaritzburg area. Here in the Western Cape is the city of Cape Town and surrounding areas, and so forth. So government decided that they will use another tool, which is the industrial development zones. And this program was going to be a dedicated suite of incentives in a designated area. That if you are an entrepreneur or a big business and you locate inside these industrial development zones, we are going to get special incentives that will attract you into these areas, so that first you create industrial activity there, you contribute to the local economy, and then you create jobs. But then there was a big problem with that, because the requirement was that first you must have a seaport in order to benefit from this, or you must have an international airport as a requirement. And then other provinces, other areas were now complaining that, look, we also want to benefit from this industrial development zone program, but we don't have a seaport, we are inland, we don't have international airport next to us. So what do we do? Because the incentives provided there are really attractive incentives for local investors and for foreign investors. Then the government met all the ministers from the provinces, MECs, they met. Then they decided that no, the law must be changed so that you allow other regions to benefit from this huge program. Then the law was changed into what is called now the Special Economic Zone Act. So the Special Economic Zone Act is just an act that incorporates the old idea of industrial development zones, but it dealt away with that funny requirement of a seaport and international airport, as long as the area qualifies according to the new criteria. As long as the special economic zone, as we call them, no longer industrial development zone, will be sustainable in the long term, then the government can designate that area as a special economic zone. There's been a lot of studies done by people like Mr. Mauto and the provincial government, to ensure that when we put together this program, it's a sustainable and it's an attractive program. But before I get into the details of today, I just want to acknowledge the presence in this meeting of the HOD of the province, Solifori. He's an old comrade. We have been working with him for many, many years in the past. Thanks very much for the collaboration and the cooperation really between your department and the Department of Trade and Industry. amongst us here, we have one of the board members of the Special Economic Zone Advisory Board. This is the board that advises the Minister of Trade and Industry on policy matters, the programs, and the implementation of the SEZ. So from time to time, he will be coming here with his colleagues to check on the development of this special economic zone and then advise the minister on any remedial action that could be taken if there are problems. My brother here, Mr. Silo Rasetaba. And then amongst us here, we have the councillors, Ms. Cynthia Clayton, and Mr. Greg Barnardo. Thanks very much for gracing this meeting with your presence. Mike, the CEO, oh, there's a correction, point of order.
Yes, we just want to honor Councillor Barbara Russ as well, also from Atlantis. We have 2 councillors in Atlantis.
Apologies, Councillor. Yes. And then there's the CEO, Mike. They know you in this area for sure. He's the CEO of the SEZ. And then obviously members of the community and the captains of industry that are here. The SEZ, this SEZ belongs to you. It's very simple. Councillors, there's a message from the Minister of Trade and Industry. The SEZ belongs to the community and the local government. It's your SEZ. That's why, by law, you have to be here and contribute in the development of this SEZ. If there are concerns that you have to tell the Minister of Trade and Industry, you have to tell the MEC of Economic Development in the province that, look, we are concerned about this and that, so that when it's implemented, it's running, we have dealt away with whatever problems. It belongs to you, it belongs to the province. That is why it is the provincial government working together with the municipality and the provincial owned companies to apply for the designation of the SEZ, like Mauto was saying. So this process, obviously, it started some time ago through the Department of Economic Development. The application was submitted to the DTI on the 8th of September, 2016. Obviously, it's an act, the Special Economic Zones Act, that says the province, the municipality, and the local entities must apply. And the proposed Atlantic GreenCape SEZ is one of the 10 that the whole of government, national and provincial, they have agreed that we're going to have 10 new SEZs spreading across the Republic of South Africa. So this is one of them. According to the Act, obviously the special advisory board of the minister must advise him after assessing the application. You know, through the subcommittees of the advisory board, they assess the application, they visit the area, they talk to the company that has been designated as the potential operator of the SEZ, they talk to the local councillors, the provincial government. In their deliberations, they then advise the minister whether to designate or not to designate. So there have been iterative processes where the technical subcommittees of the advisory board were engaging with the local people in building up and strengthening the application. So the whole process now has come to this point now where we are consulting with you, the community of the area, with you, the potential investors or even current investors. Again, I have to say, Atlantis is very fortunate. In some areas, my colleagues know, like Musina, there is a new SEZ there that has been designated by the minister. But it's an empty land. You go there today, there is just nothing. Empty land. You know? And the issue was, even if you're saying you are launching it, how do you launch an empty land? Nothing. Just cattle grazing around and few houses here and there. Whereas here, there is infrastructure already here. You know, there are companies that are already looking at benefiting from these incentives. We have been talking about GRI and many others. Even some of the companies here were in an area that you will say, maybe it can't be part of the so-called special economic zone. But deliberately, government has decided that those companies will be declared part of the special economic zone, although maybe geographically they might be outside of the area. You see, to ensure that we do like China and many other countries where they designate the whole city or town as a special economic zone just to attract foreign direct investment and local direct investment. So I think I'm not going to talk about the special economic zone itself. We have Mike here who will tell you exactly what the purpose of this special economic zone. But again, really, if you look at what the Western Cape has targeted, they said, yes, ours, because this is special. It's not like an industrial park, like any other industrial. It's special. So we are targeting the green economy. You know, they are bold enough that majority of the things that will be happening here will be green, which we all support, provincially and nationally, in terms of the administration we support. That is why, from the national government, really, we are looking forward to successful interaction today, which will really fast-track the designation of this special economic zone as a real special economic zone for investors to come in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DDG. Indeed, the Atlantis SEZ belongs to the Atlantis community. And we of the view that this is a breath of a fresh air, or DDG has indicated. We've been designating greenfields where we're starting from scratch. And in Atlantis, indeed, there are companies. And before we even designated SEZ, there were new investors that located. But without taking much of our time, I'm going to give our head of department. Sorry. Okay, I'm told that there's another car blocking the way. It's White Cherry Park, registration CA 995654. Can you just make a way for other guys? Okay, let's give our head of department chance.
Thank you, Matu. I'm going to have to stand up here because I have to click slides, but don't worry, it's not a big presentation. I think it's only 4 slides. Yes, so as been introduced, I'm Solly Fourie. I head up the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. I did speak with Brian earlier, and he told me about all of the languages, and the two of us did engage in a language that you're probably going to hear today, but it's not official, and that's Cape. So as you're confused, vra vir my, ek kan antwoord die questions, okay? All right, so where are we going from here? So thank you very much, Chief Sipho. It's really been fantastic for us to be working with the DTI in the way in which we've worked. And so you'll notice from, I think I can see, okay. So you'll notice from the slide presentation that I'm going to do is just the context of where we are at, how this fits in to the broader Western Cape picture and objective. And so first of all, what we want to talk about is the stakeholders in this engagement. Sipho, when he spoke, he also introduced a member of the Special Economic Board, Brother Selo. Thank you very much for being here and being in Cape Town today. It's always so nice to have you. And then Sipho and everybody from DTI, thank you very much. Really appreciate it that you guys came down and we're working together. And then Lance from the city. Okay, guys, he's a backdoor boy. He's van Anakant. So, but we'll give him a special welcome. So thanks for being here. And that is just to demonstrate that the DTI, the Western Cape government, the city of Cape Town, and GreenCape, who works as our special agent in the green economic space, have collaborated and worked together all this time in support of the Atlantis Special Economic Zone, of whom the Atlantis community and the Atlantis businesses are the primary stakeholders. I think what is important is that when something like an economic zone lands, it is not necessarily, as they say in the classics, a silver bullet. It is not going to automatically overnight give every person that's unemployed a job in Atlantis. But it is a catalyst to bring about the hope. It is a catalyst that brings about job opportunities. And where we've been now, the time is that together with the 3 spheres of government, we've identified that this is one area in which investors will come to invest their money because it is providing, or we're providing, an enormous amount of incentives. So first of all, we've got the DTI, who funded significantly the feasibility and the startup. And I did mention to Sipho earlier on, if he's having a problem spending his other SEZ monies in the other provinces, we've got a lot of other challenges here, brother. We can, we can look at that. So it has been very much a work from them where they've invested from a national space. They funded their infrastructure developer, or they will fund the infrastructure development, which is also very, very unique, because what it really then says is, an investor indicates a willingness to come and invest. What it happens is that the investor actually gets the benefit of an infrastructure fund that assists the capital expenditure of putting up the factory, or the top structure as we call it. And then of course they will play a massive, massive regulatory role to ensure that everything that happens in the special economic zone is in compliance with the Act. My department, our government, we applied for the designation. We co-funded the startup, and we are co-funding longer-term operational expenditure. And of course, we will be providing, as it is our duty to provide, oversight of the SEZ. I think the city of Cape Town has played an enormously powerful role in providing the land for the SEZ. The planning processes and approvals is very, very, and the approvals is not all done yet. Of course, when the investors come to put up their stuff, the planning approvals will become much easier. There is an infrastructure investment, and that for a long time, the city has been working on providing an infrastructure or an investment facilitation office here in Atlantis. And then GreenCape drives the investor attraction and the investor support. So once it's designated, we then have to attract investors into the space. And that's a role that GreenCape's going to do. And then, of course, the skills development, which they are busy already, with Serebi, with the SMTDC incubator, and with the West Coast College, FET College, where we're going to do quite a bit of work. Okay, our next slide just simply shows how this all fits into our broad strategic goals in the province. Right at the top, you'll see strategic goal 1, the creation of opportunities for growth and jobs. This is the thing that drives me every morning when I get up in the morning. I come to work because I know the challenges that our communities have of the joblessness that we have. I mean, it is really, really for us an enormously powerful commitment that we want to see people being employed and work being created for people. But we've also got other broad strategic goals, and that's strategic goal 2, where we speak about our education systems and making sure that we improve our education and opportunities for young people and youth development. Strategic Goal 3 talks about the healthy living that we want to ensure here. Strategic Goal 4 talks about our need to create a sustainable environment, that we're not just going to willy-nilly ride over the environmental issues, but we are concerned about that. And of course, Strategic Goal 5 for us is to embed good governance and sound economic and fiscal discipline in ensuring that we deliver responsibly on the monies that the taxpayers give to us, and that we actually report on those quite clearly. Our next set of slides is just our approach in Provincial Strategic Goal 1. It's an 8-point strategic approach, and largely, and ek gaan nie almal die goed sê nie, but largely to invest in high quality, this is number 3 I'm talking about, high quality, efficient and competitive infrastructure. We regard SEZ as being one of those. We regard by IDZ as being one of those. We regard our work that we're doing in air access. Okay, thank you very much, young man. You can see this man is qualified in technology. He's already been elevated, your skills, sir. I appreciate that. And then also to ensure economic, social, and environmental sustainability. I think the question was asked earlier on at the press briefing, how sustainable is this project? First and foremost, I'm saying it is not a silver bullet. It doesn't fix all the ails. But one of the things that is different in the Atlantis SEZ Green Tech Zone is that we are looking at between 10 and 25-year or even longer terms for firms to come and invest. It's not a quick fix. People don't just come in and out to get an incentive. That is part of where the Act protects the investor, protects the area, so that people don't just come in, establish, and then walk away after they have their first or their second year of tax incentives. It is something that we seek to sustain over the long term. So, largely for us, the SEZ seeks to fulfill 4 key areas. It seeks to stimulate job creation and investment. It seeks to form part of our approach of investing in catalytic infrastructure. As I said before, IDZ, the Cape Town International Convention Center, the broadband rollout that we're doing as a province. It is located along the West Coast Development Corridor, linking Cape Town and Saldanha Bay. I think the Western Cape is uniquely blessed to have 2 very, very well-developed seaports that maybe we're not exploiting as much as we could be, and the opportunities that comes from that. What Atlantis does, it provides almost in a sense a industrial haven between those 2 seaports, and it's an area that I think we must be thinking a lot more strategically on how we utilize a town that is, or an area that is as uniquely positioned as Atlantis is to serve both Cape Town Port and Saldanha Port from a manufacturing side, and then it is marketed for the growing green tech industry that is buzzing and growing as we speak. Finally, I just want to talk about the process, where we've come from and where we're going. The process, in fact, started in November 2014. I remember that time when we started with this, and they told me this is the best thing since sliced bread. It is now about 3 years later. And so 2014 in February, we appointed a project management unit together with DTI, paid for GreenCape to start that work. The technical studies was completed in 2015. We had a cabinet resolution supporting the development of the Atlantis SEZ. Then we had made application in 2016 for designation. There were some things that we had to change, and then we made and then there was a positive recommendation of our application in the media in July 2017. This was known as the Anadag, and now we are having the 30-day public participation process, which hopefully when we're done in the 30 days and we're able to address all the concerns and the minister is satisfied, he will take a report to cabinet and it will be fully designated. It is our intention, March 2018. And then, of course, after that, the hard work begins. Getting the investors, making sure the investment lands, making sure that people who are being trained are being taken up into those jobs, and making sure we grow the SEZ to be a global model of excellence in the green technology space. That is my little presentation, and thank you very much.
Thanks, HOD, with those kind words, and we do appreciate the provincial involvement in the SEZ work. And as you know, colleagues, when we develop an SEZ, we always say, Councillor Cynthia, Ras, and Banato, the SEZ must be explicitly expressed in the IDP, and it must form part of the SDF and all the other city strategies. But in Atlantis, we're quite fortunate to have worked with the City of Cape Town from the onset. When we conceptualized the SEZ, the City of Cape Town has been and continues to be part of that. With us here, we have Mr. Lance to give us just input from the city side.
I'm not doing the vote of thanks.
No, that's fine.
Is it fine? I just did this as well. Okay. Okay. I thought I was only going to do the vote of thanks, but thanks for putting me on the spot. I'll take the opportunity. As a recovering politician, I take any opportunity to speak, so it's fine. No, just from the city side, I mean, we think this is a great day. I mean, this has really been a long time in coming. And in many ways, you know, we almost regard this as having piloted the SEZ concept to a certain extent already in Atlantis. So already about 4 years or so ago, 4 or 5 years ago, we decided that we wanted to put in place an incentive scheme in Atlantis to attract investment in here. And so we only had a few levers available to us as the city of Cape Town, both on the financial side and on the non-financial side, and we put those into play. And already the uptake has been fantastic. I mean, you've talked about GRI has invested here. We also had that great investment from Hisense as well, which really sings the praises of Cape Town and, in fact, the labor force that is here in Atlantis. They even say that the factory that they run here in Atlantis is as productive as the factories they run back in China. So I really think that that just shows that we've got the labor force capabilities here in Atlantis, and I think it's really a great certificate of praise for them. What we also did was we said that we needed to have specific investor relations, and we needed to give specific care to investors that are already here in Atlantis. So we set up the Atlantis Investment Facilitation Office. And I think all of you, particularly if you're in business, you'll probably know Mr. Stanley Visser, otherwise known as Mr. Atlantis. And I do need to just pay homage to him today as well, because unfortunately, Stanley fell sick last year. He had a heart attack, and it looks like he probably won't be coming back to that job. And I think that he's really done a great role in Atlantis to make sure that investors are looked after and that we can attract investment here. So I do want to pay homage to the work that he's done in that space. Thanks. And then just to say that we have Adil, who's had to step into the breaches as well. He's run our Atlantis Investment Facilitation Office too, along with our Investment Facilitation Manager, Tim Haddingham. So already we've put in place the kind of groundwork to prepare for an SEZ, where the real big incentives are now going to come in place. And we really are excited about this. I know that the mayor has at times kind of expressed her impatience with this, but it's always come from the right place. She really wants to see what is best for Atlantis. She wants us to be put in place so that we can really attract major investment in here. So we really do think this is a fantastic day, and we're almost at the finish line where we're going to see major investment coming to Atlantis. So I think it's fantastic from the city side. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance, and apologies for putting you on the spot. We're just trying to demonstrate the coordination and the support that this project has been given. Colleagues, now we're getting into the real presentation on the SEZ Atlantis application. Are you ready, Mike?
Thanks, and good morning, everyone. Let me just see if I can pop a presentation up. Perfect. Thanks very much, and good morning, everyone. And maybe just to echo what Lance has said, A huge amount of this was done with Stanley's help, and we wish him all the best. I also wanted to very quickly thank my project team, who've really put in some big hours based out here in Atlantis and based in the office in Cape Town to put together what we hope will be a compelling application and to put together something that we think will help Atlantis to emerge as a green technology hub in the Western Cape. What to expect in this presentation? I'm going to do a very quick recap on the roles and responsibilities of everyone that you see here. I'll give you a quick process overview. What is an overview of what green tech is? What is it that we're trying to achieve? And then what does it mean for people in Atlantis? What's the benefit been thus far? And what's the benefit that you can expect into the future? So I've just put on one slide here that the DTI is the policy principle for this program. The Western Cape government is the applicant to the DTI for this program. The City of Cape Town is providing land and immediate support to the program. GreenCape, the company that I represent, we're the project management unit. So we've been responsible for preparing the application, engaging with investors, trying to create a context here out in Atlantis where we can succeed with this SEZ. We've had a range of additional partners along the way, everyone from business to labor, NGOs, media, incubators. We've done some work with the schools out here, and really a pretty broad range of stakeholders that we've engaged with out here in Atlantis. Today we're doing a broad public participation. The team counted up the number of public participations that we've done, and it's close to 200 different types of engagements that we've had. This is a completely open, broad public participation where you have an opportunity to scrutinize and to review the process that we've gone through. I've popped a quick slide on here on specifically which community groups in Atlantis we've already engaged with, and I'll just read them out quickly. The Atlantis Community Police Forum, the Atlantis Residents Association, World Vision, Dream Team, the Western Cape Rural Development Women's Forum, Griqua Women, Extreme Youth, Orion, Atlantis Council of Stakeholders, Atlantis Industrial Initiative, Atlantis Business Chamber, Impact Unlimited Media and Communications, Global Training Solutions, Radio Atlantis, Atlantis Small Farms Association. So those are some of the community-based organizations that we've already been speaking to. In addition to those, we've spoken to a range of national structures. So we've presented at NEDLAC, which is a business and labor forum with government. We've presented in front of the intergovernmental group with the city and the province. And we've really tried to make sure that along the way, all of the different structures and stakeholders have had an idea of what we're trying to achieve out here in Atlantis and have been up to speed with all of the progress and processes. So what are we doing today? We've made some progress, and we wanted to update the community in Atlantis about the progress that we've made so far. To allow some space for questions, I think Prof is going to facilitate questions after my presentation. To be clear who you should be submitting comments to. So the DTI is the policy principle, and there's the correct details of where you can submit your written comments in case you have some. Then I just wanted to have one note here about the volume of information. We've done a range of technical studies, a range of environmental impact assessments, a range of business studies, market intelligence reports. All of those studies are available on our website, but obviously I'm not going to try and present all of that information to you today. When we submitted our application to the DTI, it was 2 boxes worth of paper that we had to submit through to them. So I don't think well, you'll be here for days if we will present absolutely everything to you. So I'm trying to present an overview and the highlights, but if you want more detailed information, all of it is on our website. I think the first place to start is what is green tech and why is it important? I think if you've watched the news over the last couple of days, you would have seen Durban have had massive floods yesterday. Cape Town is in the middle of the worst drought we've ever experienced. There's tornadoes all over the southern part of North America, the Caribbean, and the north part of South America. India has experienced some landslides. We are seeing the climate change in faster and more impactful ways in the world than we ever have. So to respond to this, we have to think about technologies, processes, and manufacturing that will slow down and mitigate some of these extreme climate events. So by green tech, we're talking about things that are lower carbon, we're talking about things that are more resource efficient, and we're talking about things that are more socially inclusive. So the sorts of products and goods that we're looking to attract to the Atlantis SEZ meet the definition of lower carbon, more resource efficient, and more socially inclusive. So why Atlantis? Why did we choose Atlantis for green tech? And how does green tech fit into what's happening in Atlantis already? And I think a good place to start with this slide is when we were thinking about putting an SEZ application or proposal together, we wanted to focus on green technology. So we did a scan across the Western Cape and broadly across South Africa, looking for what would be the best area for a green tech special economic zone. We looked at Saldanha Bay, we looked at George, we looked at Mossel Bay, to try to identify which areas have the highest competitive advantage to be a green tech focused special economic zone. And in all of those considerations, Atlantis came out on top. It was the most appropriate area in South Africa to have a green tech focused special economic zone. And this is based on some of the historic strengths that the area has, as well as an opportunity to leverage those strengths into new sectors. So historically, Atlantis has had great skills in heavy metal engineering, electronics, boat building. Those same sorts of skills and those same sorts of ideas are what you need to manufacture wind turbine towers, to manufacture smart meters, inverters, PV panels. Textile skills and boat building skills is what you need to manufacture wind turbine blades. So there was a really good match of some of the existing skills that were out here in Atlantis with some of these new sectors that we wanted to encourage. There was also really good road access. So your ability to get onto the N1, the N2, the N7, the R27, to get north, south, east, and west, to get these big abnormal components to the project sites that they need to be. I'm sure everyone from Atlantis would have seen the towers leaving. If you had to move those towers through the port of Cape Town, it would be practically impossible. You wouldn't be able to turn around the corners and get through the traffic in town. And then lastly, there was quite a lot of infrastructure that was out here in Atlantis already that was underutilized. So it was a very efficient way of starting to leverage some of the existing on-the-ground infrastructure. The vision for Atlantis, quite a lot of this has already been begun to be met by the investments from the city, but getting the MyCity bus routes running out here, electricity upgrades, water supply, and fiber optic cables. Each of these are, well, the MyCity is broadly out here. They're doing a few expansions. The electricity upgrades should be energized towards the end of the year. Water, the city will be putting in the Atlantis Aquifer Group and a range of water augmentation schemes out here, and the first few rings of fiber optic cables are already in the industrial area. So what is the vision or mission of this project? And it's really to make Atlantis the focal area of a green technology cluster that will service broadly South Africa, but also the rest of sub-Saharan Africa. And that green tech manufacturing hub will contribute to urban renewal and community upliftment. So that's the overall mission statement. The goals are to grow the green tech sector in the Western Cape and South Africa, to place Atlantis as a key industrial node of the country, and to drive the high-impact industrialization of green technology. And if you remember back to those first slides, if you accept that there are going to be an increasing frequency of these extreme events, floods, fires, droughts, the more green tech we can start to introduce into South Africa and sub-Saharan Africa, the better placed we'll be to deal with these systematic shocks. As the HOD said, Atlantis is also very conveniently located between the two ports in Saldanha Bay and Cape Town, and there's some plans to make sure that this West Coast corridor positions itself to play a strong role as the part of the strategy for the Economic Development Department. What are the sites specifically that we've proposed in Atlantis? So these are them up on the projector. I hope you can see it. If not, there's some little flyers in the front that have clearly indicated where the sites are. These sites are land that is owned by the city of Cape Town And the intention is to make these sites available to be leased by the private sector to be able to participate in the special economic zone. I think we've had a lot of background, but I think it's worth reflecting on where we've come from. So in 2010, 2011, there was some participation around the Atlantis revitalization framework, and the vision of having a green tech zone in Atlantis was already starting to be communicated back then in 2010, 2011. In 2011, 2012, the city bought into the vision and created this green tech hub with an accelerated land disposals process and a couple of other incentives. In 2013, the DTI promulgated the SEZ legislation and started the SEZ program, and I think the HOD slide covers what's happened since 2014. So working very closely with the DTI, we've broken up all the work into three main phases. There was a pre-feasibility phase, where it was around identifying the sites, understanding the opportunity, and putting structures in place to be able to understand the risks, the barriers. Following the pre-feasibility, which was a successful pre-feasibility, we moved on to a feasibility stage, where we did technical environmental impact assessments, financial modeling, economic modeling, and we started to test the market. What is the appetite from companies to move into Atlantis? We submitted an application, and here we are today with public participation. The next stage, after we finish, hopefully with a successful feasibility and designation, it will move on to how do we operationalize this SEZ. There's a bunch of legal requirements that have to be met by the province and the DTI about appointing operators, about making sure that there's correct governance, that structures are in place. And we will continue with some of the projects that we've already started around skills and around small enterprise development. And we'll continue trying to promote Atlantis as a target area for investors to set up their manufacturing. So what are we trying to achieve broadly with all of this? And it's really about creating decent employment through manufacturing opportunities to attract foreign direct investment as well as local investment. In order to get to these desired outcomes, we have to make sure that there's a strong relationship between all three tiers of government, and I hope that you're seeing that today, that you've got technical representatives from across national government, provincial government, and local government all participating, driving the same vision for the same outcome. We need to support small businesses in Atlantis to be able to participate into the supply chains of some of these multinationals that are coming in. And we need to make sure that we can set up the administration for incentives to be easy to access and smooth to operate for the companies that would like to participate. So what's happened? I've split this into two. What will we achieve in the short term and what have we already achieved? To date, there's been about 680 million rand of investment in Atlantis that's been focused on this program. We won an award from the United Nations for being the best investment promotion project in the world, which is very nice for Atlantis. And that was an award for the strength of the partnership that we had with the DTI and the strength of the partnership that we had with the city and with Westgrow. We've created, through the private sector investment, a number of jobs in Atlantis. There's a whole bunch of economic multipliers that you can use to put onto those jobs, but I'm not going to talk too much about that today. I think much more relevant is the direct jobs that we've created. And we've built an investment pipeline that we believe is very attractive for the site. I think Lance will probably touch on that in his closing, that there's already a lot of interest for companies to move into Atlantis, and it's certainly keeping us quite busy. Over the next 5 years, we would like to attract another R1 billion of investment, trying to create about 1,200 direct jobs. And then on the operational side, we would like to try and be a high-functioning special economic zone. So we want to benchmark ourselves with the best in the world and try to compete with the best in the world for international investment. On the investment side, the City of Cape Town has put in a considerable amount of money, and that is dominated by the My City Bus routes running out here. and the electricity upgrades that you'll see just around the corner here. The city is also busy with the fiber optic cable, so that's counted in there as well, but the two big contributors of that investment that the city's made are the My City and the electricity upgrades. The DTI has provided a little bit of money up front to be able to get all the technical work done, the technical feasibility studies, to make sure that what we're planning for this zone is robust. We're going to look to the DTI for a lot of infrastructure funding over the next 5 years through the SEZ fund. And then the Western Cape government is responsible for making sure that the operating entity operates that SEZ well. This is probably the most complicated slide that I've got, but it's just to show that we've done a whole range of economic cost-benefit analysis, which shows that the benefits of this SEZ outweigh the costs of the SEZ by 3 times. So for every 1 rand that's put in by the economy of South Africa, 3 rand comes out. We've done a range more studies, and I think the one that I like the best is that for every 1 rand of tax money that is put into the SEZ, 34 rand of tax will be paid back to the government. So it's, from the government's perspective, the money that they were going to put into creating this SEZ in Atlantis and the incentives that they're going to be putting into this SEZ in Atlantis is a good deal for itself. So we're trying to encourage private sector investment because of the opportunity that's available here, but that opportunity also means that government will be able to recover a bunch of the investment incentives that they've made available. We've been very deliberate in our investment promotion strategy. There are specific companies that we're trying to target in sectors. I think a great example is wind turbine blade manufacturing. We've been very deliberate in approaching the 3 biggest companies in the world to look at this. The largest company in the world has already built a full feasibility for being in Atlantis to manufacture wind turbine blades to supply the South African market. The reason that they aren't here yet is a similar reason for what you're seeing at GRI in the last weeks, is that it's not clear how Eskom and the Department of Energy are going to run the procurement. So as soon as there's more certainty, we can expect to attract specific niches of investors that will be able to participate in that program. When you add all the investment in the pipeline that we have, it's a pretty big number. It's unlikely that all that investment will be realized. So we've spoken to 3 companies that each want to manufacture wind turbine blades. We're only ever going to get one of them. We'll never get all 3, so you can't just add them all together. This was the award that was given to Minister Davies for Invest South Africa, Westgro, and GreenCape for basically the GRI investment here in Atlantis being a benchmark for how you can attract foreign direct investment into communities. We've done a lot of work to understand what skills are going to be required and how to work with community people and schools in Atlantis to make sure that there are the correct skills available for these opportunities that are coming. So we've done a big audit and we've mapped out a range of different skills, working very closely with the Department of Economic Development. We've managed to get some funding allocated through one of the SETAs to begin a skills intervention at this level in the coming months. We have been working on a high school program that I'll get to in a slide in a sec for the last 18 months, but for the community members in Atlantis to be appropriately skilled, to be appropriately certified as a welder or as a fitter and turner or as a boilermaker, that will allow you to be able to access these opportunities that we see coming. And we are putting in place specific programs to help both currently employed people who would like to upskill, as well as unemployed people who would like to become skilled, to be able to access that. We've been working with the schools in Atlantis for the last 18 months, and our first class of matrics is going to write now, so I hope they're all studying. But we've run this program in partnership with a company called Ekamva. We started in 2016. There's been 120 learners that have participated in this program, and based on last year's results, they've each gone up by at least 1 or 2 symbols. So it's a 10 to 20% overall improvement. The reason that we chose to partner with Akamva, though, specifically, is that it's not just about the best and the brightest. Akamva specializes in making sure that kids can access a post-school opportunity. So that can be an apprenticeship, it can be going to a technical college, or it can be getting a bursary and going to university. But they specialize in making sure that school leavers have access to an opportunity after they leave school. Then specifically on GreenTech, we've done a lot of work to try and encourage some of the learners to understand what opportunities are out there. So we ran a competition, and I'm not sure if these guys were the winners, but they got their photo taken, to build renewable energy projects. So this is a working wind turbine that when the wind blows, it makes electricity, and it powers a little light. We've also taken the school kids to a range of different conferences and events for them to see the types of careers that they could explore in green technology. So this is one. Yeah, so this is visiting Windaba, which is a big wind conference. They visited the Solar Challenge. I think the school actually won a prize for the design of their project around the Solar Challenge. And then we've also tried to include some of the younger kids in thinking about their role in a country, in a society where there's going to be increasing resource scarcity. So we ran a design thinking laboratory with, I might get the number wrong, but it was about 160 school kids from grade 4 to think through about how we interact with water and how can we solve this water challenge or this water crisis that Cape Town is currently in. And it was pretty spectacular to see that the solutions the kids came up with was far less bound by, I guess, technical engineering parameters, and very creative and very, yeah, it was very exciting. It was a very exciting process. So with each of these interventions, we're trying to build a pipeline of the correctly skilled, correctly capacitated people with an understanding of what it will be to participate in a green technology hub, with the 20-year vision that the HOD was talking about, that these grade 4 kids over the next 10, 15, 20 years will be in a position to be the captains of industry here in Atlantis. The last one that I wanted to talk about is the small incubation support that we've been working with Surebi, SMTDC, which is now Symbiosis. But the work that's been happening there is focusing on helping businesses, small businesses from Atlantis, get to the point that they can enter the supply chains of some of these multinational companies. There's been a couple of successes at Surebi. There's been a lot of effort and work that's gone into out there. I've got a number here somewhere. They've got over 30 SMMEs that they're currently supporting, and they've supported broadly about 112 clients, and those are the numbers from this quarter that's just passed now. So they're operating, they're open, and they're supporting companies out here in Atlantis. The last thing that I want to add about Surebi is we've worked with them to try to see how we can make the existing companies in Atlantis more competitive. So we've run a program that we've called the Western Cape Industrial Symbiosis Project, where we've met all of the companies in the industrial zone in Atlantis, or half of them, and we've asked them, what are you throwing away? What does your waste stream look like? And we've tried to match that waste with another company's input here in Atlantis. And we've had some pretty good success, and it looks like there's going to be 3 new businesses that will be set up to be able to manage the waste moving between the companies in Atlantis. Those businesses are being incubated at Surebi as we speak. I think that's it for my presentation. I was going to hand back over to Prof to run the Q&A session. And I guess just to encourage you, please ask whatever you want, be robust, interrogate us. I might defer to some of my team members as needed, but thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. So with the four presentations, a lot of information has been provided. And the consultative process didn't start today, it has been ongoing for quite a while. And so it also have given people an opportunity to know what questions, what concerns they have, and where opportunities can be strengthened. So please be very, very sharp, harsh, critical, ask the difficult questions, because that's very important to identify where the gaps are. I see one hand, two hands here, three hands, four. We'll just, let me just, that's wonderful. If the more hands, the better. The first, yes?
I say again, good morning to all the people. I am so excited. I say thank you to my Heavenly Father that He comes to Atlantis, that we will have definitely a big change in Atlantis. That was a prayer of Atlantis. I just want to say something very important to this panel, that we have the sub-council officers moved now in Atlantis. So we have two very active ward committee in my ward, and we must add it to the stakeholders. They represent in Ward Councillor Barbara Russ and in my Ward 29. So that people must be all part, because they form the arms and the legs and even the eyes for the ward councillors. So I just want to say thank you. And I just say I will give my support as a chairperson of this council for this special economic zone, 100%. I've had goosebumps while Mike explained and all of you, because that brings excitement to us. The other thing is what I'm thinking about, and I'll just mention it to the councillor here, that housing is so important. The IDP is so important, and development is so important. So we as a sub-council will work towards a goal. So when business is coming into Atlantis, it is a challenge for them to travel. So we want very big investment in housing. We have the land. The other thing is the traffic lights. For sure, Atlantis will have traffic lights because the roads will be very busy. I don't want to talk. I just congratulate all three spheres of government and everybody who's involved of this planning. I'll just put the blessings of God on you. I had to leave you. Thank you.
Good morning to you. The name is Roy Nagan. First things come first. You've welcomed us, so let we welcome you in Atlantis. I think this project, our doors and our windows will be opened to invite you to come here. What I would like to raise is, I'm now thinking of Germany. What I would like to raise is, I think you are going to use renewable energy. I take it for granted, this story. If that is the way to go forward, which I hope we go forward in that way, I've seen it, as I said, in Germany, how it happens and what happens around there. You feel fresh. But with ESCOM, there must be a needle in a haystack, because they can be very problematic now, since all those Gupta stories and all them involved. How are they affecting this development? That is a question I would like to raise.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Earlier on, the DDG alluded to that the SEZ belongs to the people. The SEZ is something fantastic, long way overdue. But historically, this community of Atlantis has been left behind because companies came, companies go. And no, they came, they made their buck, and they left us empty-handed. I've read, or I just saw that the CEO mentioned the skill strategy. It's fantastic. But if we're going to give about 20–30%, I'm not sure, in tax incentive, there should be policy in terms of training and development. Because what surety do we have 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now that we going to build on Atlantis? But we do know if we invest in the education, I think the best thing that you can do for a community is to invest in their education. And in that sense that we take it very seriously, so that we have the Red Seal certificate artisans. So should you leave, they have something. En ons taalpraters van dan het jy daar 'n papiere. And that is the hardcore of Atlantis. We want to see our people being qualified, and so that they can be also their own bosses in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, yeah. We'll take one more and then I'll hand to the panel to respond.
Thank you very much. Also to all the role players, I'm very excited about this. I remember as the deputy reported the industrial zones of the earlier years. As a younger person, we were all part of that. And I'm very happy to see that today it is a reality for us in Atlantis. I've got two questions. The one is, I think, Mike, you reported the process and the community organizations that you consulted with. What was that process, the aim of the process, the form, and a result, the outcomes? I am the manager of Radio Atlantis. I'm not sure I heard that there was a consultation process with Radio Atlantis. I have no knowledge about a consultation process except for doing some advertising. And this is not in a negative way. I don't want to be, I'm part of an organization. And if the organization is mentioned in an important consultation process, we need clarity on that. And then my second, I just want to also make a comment to all of us from Atlantis. I am very happy to hear that we are now, many years after apartheid, conveniently located to the benefit of the people in Atlantis. I think we need an applause for being conveniently located. And then the last area is the area of marketing for future. I think it's seriously important that the local community organizations also be included in the marketing, because community media plays a very important role in consultation processes, etc. GreenCape has started with this, and I would really love more. We've got the Weskusnews, the Impact Media, and Radio Atlantis as community media, and we seriously need to benefit as organizations from this process too. Lastly, also, I enjoyed the point that the councillor made there on the traffic light. Also, many years ago, in the early 80s and 90s, we fought for traffic lights, and it has never happened. And I think because of the huge amount of accidents we have, that is one of the key areas. And also that the amount of jobs you've worked in, I think, Mike, I saw in your presentation about 1,250, something like that, jobs. I think we need far more job creation in Atlantis. Also, lastly, to the Deputy General, I think one of the key areas would also be, we've got all these skills, but it is important that if investors come in, that they do respect the labor legislation of this country, and that should become part of the agreements that you enter with those organizations. There are minimum wages and all those things. That, I think, would stop all the unnecessary labor unrest if those agreements are properly legislated. Thank you very much, and I am excited about this.
Thank you very, very much for that. Just before members of the panel respond, there's a card just restricting access to the venue, and then some people wanted to leave and they can't get out. It's FR 980GP. FR 980GP. Can you please assist us and move your vehicle? Thanks. I'd like to hand over now to members of the panel. Any of the panel members can respond to any of the points that have been made.
No, thanks very much. I think, let me start with the issue of ESCOM, but I'm sure Mike will also add. Yes, we have all these challenges with ESCOM, and you know, at the high level, the government is trying to sort out the issues there, but it is the objective of government that there will be some kind of a mixed energy generation as we move forward. We are moving away from relying 95% on coal into renewable energy and some other forms of power generation. So it is an express intention of government that renewable energy is part of the priority. Like even I think the HOD or Mike was presenting that, we hope the contract will be signed by ESCOM, before the end of this year. In fact, I think they are late already because of what's happening there. It was supposed to be July. By July, ESCOM was supposed to have dealt with all these shenanigans when it comes to this kind of energy generation. Yes, but the SEZ belongs to the people of Atlantis. That has to be emphasized. The people of Atlantis, of this area, must benefit right from the start when, like you saw Mike was presenting there will be up to R1 billion that will be invested here just on the infrastructure. Forget about now investors coming in, infrastructure. The issue is always that the local municipalities, green space, they must ensure that those contracts go to the local people. First of all, obviously the people who will deliver, not the body thing. The people who will deliver, when you are giving a contract to develop the road, you have to deliver. But first, the priority is to the local people. When it comes to the investors, there's a general policy now. We all know that at times this BE thing doesn't work properly. But there's the general policy from the DTI that for you to benefit from the incentives, at least you must be level 4 BE shareholding. It's up to you here to ensure it's the local people who are part of that. If the company says, wow, I can't benefit now from the incentives government is providing because I'm nowhere near level 4, the local entrepreneurs, the local people will have to form those partnerships with those people so that they are at least level 4. Obviously, it's a policy of the DTI, but the people who must monitor this and check what is happening is local people. There are other problems within government. We have this new program called Black Industrialist. I've forgotten the name. Joanne, you were there when I think you were there when you were launching the first Black Industrialist project. It was here in the Western Cape. The lady who was supplying now to Woolworths, directly supported because, at times these BE things, is more distribution than creating new enterprises, creating new economic activities. That is why we are saying the Black Industrialist now. Any person here who has got an idea, Mautu is here, I'm here, tell us now what ideas do you have. But your project must be substantial because that's why we are calling it the Black Industrialist, because we want people who will be in operations where they have an influence in their sectors. So the threshold is 30 million. You have an idea of a project which will be worth 30 million in terms of investment and other things. You apply through the DTI, and we take you through the processes. And obviously, you have to be black, at least 51% black holding or ownership of that operation. So thanks very much. I think I'll stop there. There are many other supply development. These big companies that are here, they must develop local suppliers here. Thanks very much.
Thank you. I just want to clarify before I ask some of the other panelists to comment. I just want to clarify a legal term, okay? The law of equality, in terms of we have the Constitution, and Section 9 deals with equality. Section 9, subsection 2 in specific deals with that there is an important necessity to have legislation and different measures to overcome the oppressive effects of the past. So in the legislation dealing with equality, both economic equality and equality within the workplace, there's a word that is now legally classified as black, the word black. is an umbrella word for those who were previously discriminated against. And the word black has three main categories. It's African, so-called colored, and Indian, so-called Indian. And of course, the courts have added Chinese also to that. So, so when the DDG when the DDG makes reference to black, he's speaking about the umbrella term, the inclusive term. So don't think of it in its narrow kind of context.
Thank you very much, Dr. Williams. Let me explain the issue now of color, of the Chinese. As you know, before '94, we had Chinese here, about 10,000 of them in South Africa. And these Chinese were classified by the apartheid government as black people. Remember, the Chinese were classified by apartheid government as black people. So those 10,000 Chinese have to benefit from the BEE programs now because they suffered like we are suffering. You know, just to make a point, remember those days, the Japanese, you know Japanese and Chinese are almost the same in terms of appearance, but the Japanese were classified as whites. You see, that's why if you are a Japanese, we were here before '94, you can't not be classified as black. Only those 10,000, by the way, not the 1.3 billion. Thank you.
We'll come to that in a moment. What do you want to do?
No, I'm just, are we answering that question?
Yeah, you can respond to any of the questions that you posed.
Okay, so I think there was a question about the sustainability and whether in fact this is not a quick fix and people will leave. I think we tried to address that earlier on where we are looking for investors at long-term investors. We're really talking about 10 to 25-year kind of investment agreements that we're looking for. So it's not somebody that comes in, makes the profit, takes the incentive, and then walks away. It really is for longer term, and that will be built into the kind of contracting that is done. I completely agree with you on making sure that we skill up for sustainability. I think I tried to address that in our apprenticeship game changer. We've also got a concept in our apprenticeship game changer called recognition of prior learning. The challenge with a lot of our people is that they've got the experience in what they do, particularly in the technical fields, but they don't have the certification or the papieren. So recognition of prior learning is a deliberate program that we're doing with Department of Higher Education and Training, whereby there are tools and a skill set given to those people in order to certify and to qualify so that they can get that. So that is a process that we've got in the Western Cape, and we'll see that landing here as well. I'm going to leave the issue of the process and the marketing to Mike. I do want to just touch on the convenience of the location, and I know the member who raised the question or made the point. It is something that Atlantis needs to have a look at because it is now becoming a very convenient location for industrial growth between the two nodes, between the Saldanha Bay industrial node and the Cape Town Metro industrial node. And it is an area where, particularly when logistics becomes a challenge. I mean, I know that we are struggling on our roads with the enormous amount of road freight that's happening. And it is an area that I think, Atlantis can actually start shaping itself to providing an alternative on a logistics side. And then, of course, the whole issue about needing more jobs and more skills. And I think that is particularly what this industrial special economic zone is about, is actually to ensure that we conform to all of our labor legislations, that we conform towards the skill demands or the skill requests from business, and that we respond to all of that. So I've tried to, and I'll ask Mike to do the process and order.
Thanks, Sally. Yeah, I'll just be quick, just to respond and just to build on what the DDG was saying, in fact, about the BEE codes as well. The new BEE codes actually put greater emphasis on supplier development and enterprise development. So actually, a lot of the companies that will be coming in here, will, if they're going to get that level 4 status, will have to put a lot of resources towards supplier development and enterprise development, which will certainly help companies and help producers already in Atlantis to actually upskill themselves to be able to supply into their supply chain. So I think that that is definitely something we want to encourage and definitely push on that front. As for the traffic lights, this is the first time I've heard of that, but I'm sure that it will probably be in our IDP. We'll look at it. I know the DTI is going to be spending R1 billion on infrastructure. Possibly some of it could be used for traffic lights. And it's interesting that you mentioned traffic lights and you don't use the South African term robots, but it is interesting to see that. And then just lastly, on the Guptas, I don't think the Guptas have actually applied to start a company yet, but we'll keep an eye out for that.
Thanks. Maybe just to start with the easiest one, the Atlantis radio. We had you guys listed as a stakeholder in the very first engagement with the PMU. But what I'll do is I'll ask Michael just to double check who specifically from Atlantis Radio is there and send you the details. That was about 3 years ago now in the end of it. But it's very important for us as the PMU that we're accurate, that we're responsible, that we are clear in what we're saying, and that we aren't creating expectations that we can't meet. And I think that links to the second question that you had around the 1,200 jobs. Is we had that as the target for 5 years, and I'm pretty comfortable and confident to commit to that target. It's not a lot of the public participation that we've done historically in Atlantis. We've heard that there's been many promises made, and not all of them have been kept. So we'd very much like to have, basically to have a 90% expected value that we can hit the target that we've set. So we're 90% confident that we can hit that target. And that's the type of planning and decision making that we want to use when we're communicating to people out here in Atlantis. Eskom is very difficult, and particularly for GRI here in Atlantis, it's very difficult. They are 2 years late in signing contracts with independent power producers that they, from a governance perspective, are obliged to sign. So the Department of Energy in this context sets the policy. National Treasury and Department of Energy have run the procurement, and Eskom is expected to sign to offtake that electricity. I think with the challenges that they've experienced over the last 2 years, they've delayed that signing, and that's consequently put huge pressure on GRI. It's put pressure on DCD in Kuche. It's put pressure on Helios in East London, IDZ. Helios and DCD are currently not manufacturing at all, and GRI, by my understanding, is trying to hang on to see what happens towards the end of this month. The Minister of Energy has communicated that Eskom will sign before the end of this month, which will then lead to a process of another couple of weeks before GRI or DCD or Helios know that they have orders. So from our perspective, we're pretty optimistic that that will be resolved, and we're working very closely with the DTI and with the IPP office to try to make sure that this can be resolved. I said in the media briefing that we had the National Council of Provinces visiting GRI about a month ago now to see firsthand what's happening and to try to intervene at the necessary political levels. From our perspective at GreenCape, these are decisions that are taken well beyond or well above us, but we're trying to do what we can to make sure that the companies can survive through this uncertainty. On using local suppliers and using companies from Atlantis, that's been the primary focus of the project office since we've set up. Where we have had competitive or reasonably competitive bids for services from Atlantis-based companies, we've prioritized using them. In some instances, those services aren't available in Atlantis, and we've had to look into Cape Town. But on the whole, all of the things that we've procured have been procured from local companies. In terms of marketing and branding for foreign investors coming into Atlantis, that phase will really kick off post-designation. So we're kind of in a funny spot right now where we don't really have something to sell because we haven't finished it. As soon as we've passed the designation stage and there's nice clarity around specifically how the incentives will be administered, who qualifies, who doesn't qualify, how BE works within the context of the SEZ, we will have effectively a product that we can sell. And then we'll be in touch with the local community to make sure that when we are selling that product, that there's as much local participation as possible, and that when companies are asking questions of local media, of local stakeholders, that they have a high understanding of how the systems and processes work. What we've done up to now for investment promotion is really deliberately targeting specific companies because we aren't able to give 100% certainty, are we going to be an SEZ? Can we offer you these incentives? Will you get the incentives? And when will you get the incentives? And as soon as we can answer those questions, I think that'll be the right time to start using some of the local media and local community as part of the strategy to attract investment.
Thank you. Just there first. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to congratulate all the efforts that has been put in so that economic rebirth can happen in Atlantis, like today, starting this positive journey, but also identifying what was done before and where we are going. I must say that in Ward 32 in Witstrand, they already started 5 years ago with a pilot project of wind power, and we did get 4 awards, 1 international award for the best eco houses in South Africa before it went to the other provinces. So we did start the GreenCape already way back. And strange and wonderful how God works, now the others is coming as well. So my concern is whoever opens whatever businesses here or contracts coming to our areas, they always look only for local labor. And I have a problem with that. Because Atlantis is almost 43 years old, we don't just have local labor, we have professional people, and I just hope in future that our people, that our professionals will also be taken in account, and the ones who are still on the road, like you did show the slides of the children, investing in them as well, but currently where we are now, we do have a lot of professionals. So I challenge that body in front, everybody there, to make use of the professional people as well. My third question is the railway line. I heard I'm traveling my city bus to town when I go attend my meetings. I want to know what about the railway line, seeing that we are talking Saldanha, we are talking economic growth on the West Coast, so that that station that is currently still there can play a huge role in future development. I just want to throw this in to give you time to think what we can do further, because we can't just think small. I also want to ask this, yes, factories who did get the incentives, after 2 to 3 years, they're gone. Yeah, our people are then stranded in debts. And a lot of things. So how are this body going to take that challenge and meet that challenge about keeping people who come in here, who invest, so-called invest in Atlantis, city, province, and national, helps them with the incentive. But after 3 years, they disappear. How are we going to keep that business here? So that is part of the challenges, because that is what is currently happening. Then not to forget land banking, because it's only the northern part of the city that we have a lot of land. Atlantis have a lot of land. How are we going to secure that land banking is not going to take place? Because sometimes the people sitting here in these benches today will be the bosses of tomorrow. Will there still be then land available for them? If we are not careful how we want development, but there must be measures in place to keep companies accountable. And if they use the incentives and not deliver, they must be held accountable, because we can't also throw money into a bottomless pit. We want to see this seed that is being sown today, that it grows and that it becomes huge trees, so that everybody can sit under the shade or plant their own trees. Thank you.
Program Director, all protocol observed to the various leaders in the different spheres of government. I'm going to be very brief. My name is Michael Marotti. My presentation here is the Atlantis Business Chamber. And I'm going to be specific, maybe critical. I might not be liked after this, but I want to make sure at the end of the day that when we speak about the SEZ, that everybody benefit. And as you have said, is a local thing that we must not forget about the localization in this. I'm representing business, and it is a worrying factor to me when I look at your screen, your name is Mike, that 33 businesses are currently in incubation at Serebi. The concern I have, where are the local people? Are they part of that program? Because at the business chamber, I doesn't know about a program like that. Let me go to another one. I have spoken, I have written to DTI about the behavior of SMDTC towards the entrepreneurs in Atlantis. It is shocking that the way how we are treated by these different institutions. I have seen that you have got the West Coast College also marked there. Do you know, and I know we've got shortcomings in Atlantis, but not 90, let's say 80% of those children are bussed in. The college, although you support it, Serebi, although you support it, Synopsis have said, we don't want to see the SMMEs in Atlantis at our board, keep them away. So I'm asking and I'm pleading with you, as small businesses, we want to say we need this economic zone. But we cannot be treated the way we are treated now. I know we don't have all the knowledge. I know we have shortcomings. But these guys must be willing to teach us, to take us along, not just to use our color scheme to get to their purses. Please make sure on that, ladies and gentlemen. Let me say thank you on that note.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. The name is Martinez Fredericks, and I do represent the economic cluster of the Atlantis Council of Stakeholders. Mike, I don't know whether you remember me, 2010, 2011, when we had a good chat up at Westgrow offices. I'm glad to see at least two of the incentives that we spoke about at that time came to fruition. The GreenCape one, the energy renewable sector, and then Stanley Fisher's office, investment office. At least those are things that happened when we spoke about it. My contribution would basically, in terms of Atlantis, is not a poor town. I mean, if I look at the number of studies that has been done since 2010 and before, the gross GDP for this town at that point already was at around about 24 billion per annum. But how is it possible that we have such a huge turnaround in this town and you have such a high unemployment? The simple answer to that, Atlantis became a netto exporter of capital, which means that the money that is generated in this town leaves almost immediately. The unfortunate part is that if you look at the jobs created in this town, only caters for the blue-collar workers. So your senior managers and your top managers, all of them reside outside, which means the bulk of the capital goes out in terms of retail and other spending. So in terms of planning the SEZ, that also needs to be taken into account. So the second thing, if you look at the plots you identified in the industrial area, is there a master plan developed to say, besides the plots you identified, are there more plots that's going to come into stream? And will the SEZ also include the broader Atlantis? Because we've got businesses outside the industrial area. We've got a small SMME. We need to make sure that those businesses also benefit from what the benefits of the SEZ. The third question I have, in earlier community engagements, there was agreed to 3 community projects. The one was the Business Information Center, the second was a community garden, and then the third one was a useless media. Are they still part of your application? And how do we make sure that they remain part of the application? Yeah, I think that's the key questions for me.
Sorry, I'm going to have to ask the panel. I know there are quite a lot of hands, but let me ask the panel to respond to some of the questions that have come through. They need some more detailed responses. Any member of the panel can start first. Mike, would you like to start?
Yeah.
Thanks very much for the questions. Maybe I'll start in reverse. When we held a community participation in Atlantis, maybe just to give some context to these 3 projects, we asked the community to start to identify 3 areas that they would like to commit to working towards. The intention with those 3 community projects was that we would provide space, computers, printers, tea or coffee for anyone that wanted to work on their projects, and some boardroom facilities if they wanted to have meetings. But the intention with those community projects were that they would be chaired, worked on, and delivered by the community. And that the role of the project management office in those projects was just to make sure you had the space, pens and pencils, email accounts if that was required to be able to work on your projects. We've followed up a couple of times on those projects. There was community representatives that were elected to be the driving force behind those projects. And up to now, we haven't seen very much progress in any of those 3 projects. I think this links back to some of the questions that were asked by the Atlantis Business Chamber. Is it has to go both ways, that there has to be commitments that are made by local businesses around professionalism, around absenteeism, around having deliberate efforts to be able to access these opportunities. And treating people poorly, there is no excuse for that under any circumstances. But there is expectations that need to be placed by Serebi. I've been more involved with Serebi than SMTDC, but I know my team has done some work with SMTDC. But certainly there are expectations from the incubators to make sure that the companies that are being incubated go through processes to understand and identify business plans, business opportunities. It is certainly an area that will receive more and more focus as we move forward. So very happy to commit to increasing the amount of focus that we place on making sure small businesses are able to participate. I think it's worth taking a half a step back and just reminding everyone where we are in the process. So right now we're still developing to be able to be designated as a special economic zone. A lot of the things that you're talking about and asking for completely correctly are things we need to do once we are a special economic zone. Up to now, we've been trying to make sure, let's do something small with the school kids, let's do something small with small businesses, let's do something small with investment promotion, in parallel with getting everything set up. Once everything is set up, that whole work stream gets to fall away, and everything can focus on skills development, infrastructure development, master planning for the SEZ. So it's hopefully not an excuse, but it's around the deliberate focus that the team has. And for now, the specific deliberate focus is to make sure that we can meet the requirements at the SEZ Advisory Board, we can meet the requirements from the DTI to make Atlantis an SEZ as the primary focus of the work. Once we are an SEZ, then the primary focus of the work must be to deliver a successful SEZ. The little bits that we've been doing along the way are just to make sure that we can demonstrate that there's an appetite and that there's willingness to participate in small business, in infrastructure development, and in investment promotion. So again, thank you for your inputs, and I think it's absolutely a critical focus area. And perhaps what we need to do is separate out a separate stream that focuses only on Atlantis. I know that Serebi, being a CEDA-funded program, has got companies that they're supporting that are in Gauteng, companies that they're supporting that are in Mpumalanga, and some companies that they are supporting are here in Atlantis. But perhaps as an outcome, we can make a specific stream that's around Atlantis support. Did I get all of them? Was there anything that I've specifically missed?
Sure, yeah, okay. Yeah, just on the land banking, Councillor Russ, you were talking about land banking. I mean, one of the conditions of the SEZ is that any company that invests in it has to, in fact, lease the land from the government entity. So they're not buying the land, they're leasing it from there. And we also want to ensure that there's no speculative kind of land grabbing as well. So if they do lease the land, they have to put a factory up on there and they have to do it. So certainly that's how we're going to make sure that the land is used productively and actually creates jobs from that. But I think the point you were making as well is that people in Atlantis in the long term also want to know that not all the land is going to be taken up and they won't have opportunities in the long term. Well, there is opportunities that once the SEZ gets filled up, we could possibly even expand the space of it as well. And also we can also expand the borders of Atlantis at a later stage as well. So I think there's major room to grow in Atlantis, and it's one of the major selling points of Atlantis is that we've got major industrial land that we can in fact expand. So I think there'll be lots of opportunities. It's now just up to the people of Atlantis to be able to take those opportunities up, and we can create a thriving ecosystem here. The trains as well, I see. Mike was also mentioning there. I know that there was, I was hearing of some proposal that somebody's come through with to actually activate the trains at least between the port and Atlantis. And I think they are looking at that, and I think it is under consideration. Because I think that would certainly help in terms of getting the transport to go between the SEZ and the port. But I think it's still in the exploratory stages at this stage. I'll report back more on that once we know more.
Sorry, just to emphasize the point on the sustainability of the SEZ and companies coming in and then going out very soon after establishing themselves in the SEZ. I think, you see, the problem with just normal incentives of government, we are right. You know, it's an upfront incentive. We are giving money to buy machinery or to do whatever. And then after two or 3 years, depending on what the nature of your business, if you have a better deal somewhere else, then you pick up and go. Whereas with the SEZ, the biggest incentive there is the tax benefit you get. You see, now the tax benefit is a yearly thing, according to the performance of your organization, and then you get these tax deductions. Because remember, corporate tax is 28% at the moment. But in the SEZ, it will be 15%. So the tax incentive itself, it's an incentive to keep you in the SEZ for a very, very, very long time. I thought maybe I'll explain that. It's not like an upfront incentive where you use it today and then tomorrow it's gone. Again, let me emphasize. I want to emphasize. You can call me Mr. SEZ is yours. This SEZ is yours. Please, when you see the provincial government, I was confirming with my colleague, the provincial government is going to be the license holder. The license holder is obliged by law to establish the SEZ board. So there will be the SEZ board here. In that board, ensure, and Your Excellency, Councillor, in many other SEZs, the local councillors, they sit in the SEZ board. You know, to take care what Mr. Moroti, yes, was talking about, so that we ensure that the locals participate, whether they're talking about employment or SMMEs participating in whatever is happening in the SEZ, you know, they sit in that SEZ board. There will be an SEZ board that has to be appointed by the license holder. Am I correct, Maud? So there's an opportunity to ensure that it's yours. You are in the board. You are checking what's happening in there. Thanks, Program.
Thanks very much. I think there's one question that perhaps still needs further clarification. So on the issue of local labor, and what does local labor mean? Does it only mean unskilled labor? Does it mean local labor meaning all components, including professional labor, and the extent to which the skills audits are activated and needed to make those identifications? Mike, if you could just please comment on that.
Thanks, yeah, and it is a work in progress. So we've started with a few of the high schools to build a high school pipeline that can start taking more and more responsibility for skills development. We've also done some work with Mercita and the department to provide funding for both currently employed people that would like to upskill, as well as unemployed people that would like to become certified. That program will kick off in the coming months, so we've already had a couple of engagements with some of the larger employers to try to identify who they would like to participate in some of these programs. But the steps that we need to follow to identify and then place those people with the correct training institutions will begin really in earnest in January next year. But we're going to try and pre-identify as many people as possible to participate in this training program. The bulk of that is focused on blue-collar workers, the training program that we've already identified with Mercita. The Atlantis Industrial Initiative is working in parallel on something called Hope at Atlantis, which is partnered with Stellenbosch University. That Hope at Atlantis program is targeting the kind of top performers in maths and science, and we'll be placing them at Stellenbosch University to study a degree. It was after a conversation with the Atlantis Industrial Initiative where we had realized that they were aiming at kind of the best and brightest to give them professional qualifications in engineering or accounting or finance, that we wanted to make our focus more around high school leavers and more around people that are trying to get certified as a coded level welder or boilermaker or artisan. That was a decision that was taken collectively with a bunch of stakeholders, and it was identified as the largest need that was current in Atlantis, that we could start with it immediately, that we could get some results, and we were able to leverage some funding from Mercita to be able to do that. Certainly, the opportunity to develop high-level professional skills in Atlantis is massive, and if there are businesses, if there are professional services that we don't currently have registered on our database, please let us know. The team out here in Atlantis has been very diligent in visiting the companies in the industrial areas, visiting all the companies that they can get through the door in Atlantis, and they've been categorized on a list of what types of services are available in Atlantis. We've put that list together to make it available to inward-bound investors, so if they're looking for someone who can provide accounting services or HR services or payroll services, we've tried to make a full list of all of the companies that we're aware of in Atlantis. It is a work in progress, and as new companies start to emerge, we'd love to include them onto that list of companies that are available, and make that list available then to inward-bound investors with the express intention of getting them to use as many local goods, local services, and local professional services as possible.
Thank you. I'll recognize you in a moment. But also just to supplement and strengthen the point that has been made, in the meanwhile, there's nothing stopping the councillors and anyone else from generating a database of those professionals. And so that don't wait for the future, start now, generate the database of professionals and all the different kinds of skills, because the issue of scarce skills is also very important, and both, in fact, all of the different arms of government have a particular focus on looking at where the gaps are, where skills, scarce skills exist in terms of expertise, so that they can tap in to the database that you may generate. So please accept the partnership that has been offered around the generation of the database for scarce skills, professional skills, and the kinds of skills which currently exist. I'm just going to recognize a hand on that side. It's been up for a while. And yes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just reminding the table about the issue of the West Coast College, which was mentioned by Mr. Marotti. You didn't respond on that. I would like you to respond on that as well, please.
I think there was, in a sense, there was a response. The response was that there will be more information is actually needed on the point that is being made that people from outside are being brought into the college. So it seems to be the key point, because the emphasis is on local labor. So even if the college does provide training for people outside of the area, when it comes to the jobs, the emphasis in terms of the project is on local labor. The college is there to provide skills to the whole country, to Atlantis, to the city, and everyone else. So if there's evidence and support that can be provided to assist people here to intervene in resolving that problem, because it's a general point that has been made, but if there's specific facts and information, that please come forward and assist so there can be an informed intervention. Okay, thanks.
Hello, I'm Joy from the Council of Stakeholders. Just a question, Mike. You mentioned that there are 3 businesses that came through the incubation process. Are they local businesses, and who are they?
We'll get to. I know there were more hands at the back there.
Good day, Kunjani.
John.
Saubona.
My bro, hoe lyk dit? Is alles alright?
Kai Sikure, Kai Jare.
Brother.
That is my own language, Khoisan. How are you today?
Fine.
Really, I've heard about this meeting, but I'm so fed up of meetings, I didn't want to come. But I'm an ambassador for Atlantis and a tour guide. I took some guys now for a tour this morning, and one of the guys, you know what happened? He's from Washington, D.C. He bought a house in Sherwood Park. I asked him why he wants to stay in Atlantis and Washington, D.C. He said, do you think every bird that is coming, we think is an aeroplane in America? So, so look, can you see the point, guys? He wants to come and stay in South Africa, in Cape Town, in a gangster area, because he don't want to stay in a property, like I say, in America, the land of dreams. And that guy changed me so much, because I have also, this morning, I also think nothing of Atlantis anymore. Because of what, not because of what, because we are always sitting in meetings, our people. We are professors, really believe me. Because TDI was here. The Department of Social Development was here. Mandela was here. President Zuma was in church one day and said, in just our church, he was saying, until Jesus is coming. You see, they almost all of them have abused Atlantis. But I took this guy not of inside tour. I took him for an environment tour. I showed him all the beauty of Atlantis, the green of Atlantis. It gets me so much. The green and we saw 5 birds that's only come in this area. Really, guys, it's so marvelous, Atlantis. I can go now to Namibia, but I want to stay in this place because of the beauty of it. And the people, because why I say the people? This guy's got great ideas. I've got the F in biology at school, guys, in Uppington. But I became a nature conservationist. You know who taught me? Those people. Because I was sitting up with them, and they was giving me knowledge, and they giving me wisdom. I only have done a short courses, a lot of short courses. Now I can argue with a professor, guys. Really. So what these people have. But so what? I'm an environmentalist, and also as a psychiatric guy, I must understand what is the problem with my people. And the problem with my people, if you can listen to me really, guys, because I know you will understand that like the African brothers will understand it, because loliwe, he, you know, we will understand Muvango. These people of us is, you know, we support Palestinian, we support the Jewish people. But what about these beautiful colored people in the Western Cape that doesn't have a land? They are born here. Look at our constitution, our democracy. We give to the Zulus, we give to that people. And that is our people's problem. If they were recognized, they will get a salary like the same like Controlesa. Then they don't have to go and bother other people to borrow money because they want to support their business. As soon as you got the contract, then you must pay the machonisas. Clever brains, but big problems. So you really guys, I'm begging you, come and tell us a lot of stuff, really, because we are clever. We just need a glue now. And you are the glue, government, because you are servants to these people. From my side, I just want to fight, really, I don't want to fight the battle for the Khoisans, but just think about that. If these guys can get a salary like the Khoisan and the other tribal lands, Then you will see. Then they don't, because all of us are beggars. Some of us are on the dead list because of business. Some of our marriages are down because of business. Some of our churches are fighting because of business, because we want to do something for the community. Really, guys, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think I was told I must respond to that. I think the last speaker made a number of fascinating points. They deal with issues of history, and there has to be also an appreciation of history. And part of our problem is that we do not understand our own history. We don't understand our own stories, our own roots, where we come from. So the question of social identity is also very important. I was at the Dr. Neville Alexander lecture now recently, and the question of the national question came up, the issue of the idea of a nation. What constitutes the South African nation? When we speak about the South African nation, what do we mean? When you speak about the different people within our country and their different histories and their different stories and narratives, what do we mean? So he raises a point that remains contested about the issue of history and the question of how is that history reflected in our economic spaces, in our social spaces, and also within our political management systems and our other spaces. And then he makes probably what I think, and so that is a question that must still be resolved at a higher level. How do we accord respect to the different histories and cultural ideas and identities that make up a common nation in terms of who we are as a country? So there are two things. When did we become a country? 1994 as a single recognized democratic state under a single national government for all the people. Only in 1994 did that actually happen. Before 1994, that did not exist. So we must not put too much pressure on ourselves, but only pressure that we have a responsibility to build our nation, to strengthen our nation, but to ensure that every single person is recognized within the building of a new nation. We do not have a single language in this country when spoken is understood by everyone. We don't have that. And language is an important element in unifying people to become a nation, to understand who you are and your identity through language, through symbols, through all kinds of things. So he raises a very powerful point in the context of the SEZ. How does the SEZ assist us in strengthening our social cohesiveness, strengthening us as a people to respect one another, dealing with our social ills and problems, because there is a violence that exists within the society at a range of levels, structural violence, cultural violence, and then, of course, what we know to be direct violence. How do we deal with this through the development, through the special economic zone? How do we then take that forward to ensure that we build dignity in the way we relate to one another? And then he makes what I think is a truly profound point. We have so much beauty that we do not see. Now, if he's able to take people from another country to come here, and when you are a tourist, the thing you want to do is to attract people to the things which are beautiful and wonderful. So therefore, you have to show them what is best within your country, what is best within your community. But sometimes we do not see the great beauty that exists, within us and around us. We only see the misery, we only see the darkness, we only see the things that are not so good. And so the most profound point, and I want to applaud the last speaker, is to remind us we have greatness in us, but we have to multiply that greatness and take the responsibility through the opportunity that is being presented through the SEZ. So how do we look at the SEZ and say this SEZ needs to address these particular kinds of narratives, these stories within our community, within an Atlantis community, so that we can reflect our diversity in all its greatness and beauty. So please give that speaker a big round of applause.
Thanks, Prof. You gave me enough time to send some WhatsApps to try and get the answers. So 2 of the 3 are Atlantis companies. Their names are I&J Woodworks and Waste Junkies that are busy being incubated at Serebi. I'm not sure if there were any other specific questions.
First new speakers, those who never spoken yet, and then there may be follow-ups. Yes. For those who haven't spoken yet, can speak first, and then I know there may be 1 or 2 follow-ups, and then after that we move to a point of closure. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. It's nice to be here. And I'm very interested of what you are talking here it is in helping us to build up our futures and our children's futures, I know. But the one thing that's standing out here, the whole day we was talking about the business and how Atlantis is going to grow and everything. But as ladies from Atlantis, you know, in government, there did come a new thing out that where the government did say that the ladies going to get woman empowerment. So the whole day I was sitting here, I'm a business lady, and I just want to know, as a side of the lady side, I just want to talk for ladies today, because I know ladies don't want to talk, especially when it is around men, and they see the men's power. And I know how men power can put ladies down sometimes. But I will stand up as a woman, and as a mother, and as a lady in the community, because I'm serving this community for 25 years. I started from the ground, and I know how does it feel to be a woman in a community, to stand up for your community. And today I want to stand up for ladies, because I want to ask you as men today, as the people of government, we salute you for government. We salute you for everything that you do from the start, from the apartheid until now. We salute you. You are standing up for us. And I say thank you for standing up for us. Because that time we didn't have a voice in the government. But today, government did give us a voice to speak. So now I want to speak. I just want to know, where is the ladies going to be part in this program for Atlantis? Where do us as women going to be filled in? Because now we're standing as women empowerment. We already start our own businesses. Most of the ladies that's sitting here today have their own companies, but they are still putting down by the men because they are women. But today I want to know, by your government people, where are we going to take part in this development that is coming to Atlantis? I want to know. And I'm not going out without the answer today.
Viva! Amandla! Okay. I know there's some follow-up questions here. Thank you very, very much. I think you've put the point very centrally and the challenge very direct. And so these men here, you know, those men here, I support you. These men better answer. Now the 3 of us on this side is we're in solidarity with you completely. I'm going to ask, there are some follow-up questions here, and then I think we're going to move to a point of closure. I saw some hands here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, those are 4. Did you want to say something? Hello? No. Okay.
Thank you very much. Ek wil net dit heeltemal duidelik maak, wanneer ons praat van bemarking, dan praat ons nie van advertensies en geld nie. Ek dink ons praat van the people of Atlantis and the community. Maar die prosesse wat ons daar stel, soos vandag se proses byvoorbeeld, sê, as jy hierdie vergadering wil bywoon, dan moet jy e-pos en registreer. Nou ek het 3 mense, waar is hulle, daar sit hulle. Ek het 3 mense, I registered 3 persons of the community because we advertised the meeting. Those people came to the radio station and they said, Ms. Watson, we don't have that facility. Can you register us? just as an example of the storytelling that user is talking about. I made that point. Now, if we want to talk to the people and the community, because we are happy, ons wil nie gesien wees that we are negative about the processes nie. Mr. Marotti? We're not unhappy, maar ons wil behoorlik geken word in die prosesse, om het so te sê. En as ons praat van behoorlik geken word, then we are very happy to come up with the database of who are our people. Want zeer sekerlik maak die mense wat aangestel word, daai mense kies vir wie hulle wil aanstel en vir wie hulle saam mee moet werk. En dit is wat vir ons kwaad maak. Not the development. It's the who you know and how you go about. Now, I want to say that marketing for us means that particular storytelling about this whole process. Kom na die radiostasie, gesels nie met Radio Atlantis nie, maar met the people of Atlantis, sodat hulle kan weet wat gaan aan. So wanneer jy daai databasis wil saamstel, dan kan daai mense self kom. They can walk to the radio station and say, here we are. This is what we do. We are the local businesses. Ons stel, ons mors miljoene rande in hierdie dorp, wat beter gebruik kan word. Ek is sommer ons daai ouetjie ook van oor af kwaad. You know, this SMTDC, we worked with him. Ons as die media woon almal daai vergaderings by. And then who do we see in those meetings? Not the people of Atlantis. It's mostly the leaders and businesses. And sometimes, like you say, so-called colored, so-called leaders. Because die probleme en die benefits kom nie by die mense uit nie. So I want to say, please, don't, when we talk about marketing, think we talk about money. We want to tell the story of the people. And when we want to tell those stories, sometimes also like the Cape Argus, ETV, all those other companies, ons in Atlantis, Weskus News, Impact Media, and Radio Atlantis, we are community organizations. We also need to benefit from that. Otherwise, we close like those factories. We bring in investors that take the money outside. And then we that work with the community, with the people, we die and we close our doors. The SMTDC gets a new name now. Same people, same story, we suffer in the end. And that is what we're talking about. Werk saam met ons. We want to work with you. Ons is al jare in hierdie dorpe. En dan werk ons saam met ons jeugdige, soos die dame wat inkom. We seriously want this development. Barbara is talking about the train. Every year, when it gets to elections, and we understand your point of, it's about the SEZ what you made in the beginning. Maar elke jaar word hierdie treinlyn gedevelop. Maar hulle kom nie so ver nie. Daar is nou alweer 'n My City bus, maar ons sukkel nog altyd met die treinlyn. Maak die treinlyn reg. U sal sien hoe help dit nie net die besighede nie, maar die mense van hierdie dorp sal gehelp word as daardie spoorlyn aan die einde van die dag reggemaak word. So ek het 'n hele klomp goed gesê. Jy word kwaad, jy try om professional te bly, maar jy kan nie altyd professional wees nie, because we want growth in Atlantis to happen for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. This is only a comment. I want to say to our community, and if you want me to say it in Afrikaans, I will do that as well. What that gentleman with the white shirt said is the truth. And the people of SEZ, here stands one of them here. They are quite a few. They are a team. And in this very facility, people of Atlantis, the ordinary people of Atlantis did avail themselves to serve on these different commissions next door. Peter, can you still remember it? So that people had to walk the walk. And I believe somewhere they did become derailed. Luckily for the people of SEZ, they stayed committed, and that's why we are celebrating this day. If it was not for their tolerance and endurance, perhaps this wouldn't have been possible, people, honestly. People, Rachel, people were given the opportunity, ordinary people of Atlantis, Mr. Nagin was also present, but people did avail themselves in different groupings, but somewhere along the line they became defocused, they did not walk the walk. So today, Atlantis, we must challenge ourselves to stay involved. Ons het nie waar deur die drif gestoot nie, ons mense het somewhere langs die pad die spoor byste geraak. Gelukkig is dit hy mense in die fabriekarea wat gevolhard het met die 3 departments van die staat. En het hulle nie volhard nie, sal ons nie vandag iewers die dag kan geselebrate het nie. So ons mense moet ook dink, we can't just stand like this. The other 3 fingers points to us. We need to stay involved, and lady, stay involved, walk the walk, because if that people did stay committed and walk the walk with SEZ, then today they could have given us presentations on not the men in front, but the very people of this community, because they were known in this whole thing, but they did not walk the walk. So let's walk and talk the walk. Then we know we are doing it in a partnership together, because you can only own something if you are a part of it. So become the real part of it, in spirit and in truth. Thank you.
Eke enkosi manibulele sishiyiwe kule ngxoxo yonke ekuqaleni tot uze ekugqibeleni. Akunamsebenzi ke sawumane sihambe sifacisa apho siva khona nalapho singeva ngakhona. I-Atlantis ikhulile, ekukhuleni kwe-Atlantis sinamasebe ke ngoku kude kwakhula neVetsand. Sishiwe ke kule ngxoxo yonke iqalile iya emaphathelweni okuphuma ngoku. Asikhange sibe yinxalenye. Kungelishwa ke nethamsanqa basinoceba ohamba nathi. Okwazi umane esibrief into bakwenzeka ntoni kodwa ke ubukhulu becala i-development yonke ngenayo based kwi-Atlantis, but ikhona iportion lapha ezantsi apha eVetsand eyinxalenye ye-Atlantis, but wonke ama-development angenayo apha focused into the colored area, of which we do understand that on this new era of this government, there must be changes. We have to be taken into consideration. We are not here actually coming to embrace ourselves that we are here. We are here. We want to emphasize that we are here. Whatever development what is taking place, we need to be involved. Because of that, now when this lady is not present as a councillor, we are excluded. And we are very far much marginalized by the government, by any from the grassroots level up to the top. We're lastly into the housing at the provincial, going to complain about the houses. They told us that we're going in the wrong door, but it was on the right time. So I want to please, whoever government entities are coming into our communities, they need to know and understand that there is a portion part which is Vetsand, which is mixed by the colored people and the black people. So ndiyavuya nami ulifumane lithuba because ubabe singakhange siyazi lonto ngesingakhange sizokwazi ukufikelela lapha, but siyawucela urhulumente wethu into ba makasiyazi into ba kwinhlanganiso azibambayo apha makayibuze into ba bakhona nabantu abamnyama apha. Enkosi. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. We'll just hear Mr. Marote and then we'll respond.
I'm speechless after this. After that, I'm really speechless. Rachel has covered me in a number of things. I am glad to hear that there are 2 companies. Mike, the question was going to direct at you. I will not use this public platform, but I want to engage with you to understand what is the selection process for companies to be part of the program that you are currently running. Lastly, Lamadoda van Pretoria, please, do us a favor when you go back home and when you get into the White House, please ask the president to sign this quickly, man. We started on this process 2011. Some of us have died. I'm on my way to the grave, but I like to see it in my lifetime. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just going to I'm going to ask Ayanda just to give some interpretation on those aspects which was not explained by the speaker. Thanks.
First of all, I want to apologize to those who were looking at this Xhosa. I was here so that I can explain. We didn't see your hands. Prof emphasized it, that we want to speak with English. But the guy, what was saying that there is focus here is only on the colored side. Then them as a black Xhosa, I mean as a Xhosa people, they feel that they are isolated to the projects. It's what he was saying. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Thanks very much. We're going to conclude now because know that they have to rush off to the airport. So just to, sorry? No. Okay, just so that we can round off very, very quickly, I'm going to, Mike, is there anything you'd like to respond to specifically? Maybe just do a rounding of comment.
Yeah, thanks very much. And the focus of what we're trying to do, maybe just to re-emphasize it once more, is to try to have industrial-led growth in Atlantis. That industrial-led growth is colorblind. It is about creating products and services in a green technology space to provide a massive global need to move towards low-carbon, more socially inclusive, and more resilient cities and communities. The closing thought that I'd like to leave you with is something that keeps me awake at night, is that even if all of us can work together as much as we can, as a community, as a country, as a continent, it still might not be enough to address some of the climate issues that we're seeing globally. So there's a tremendous amount of work and a tremendous amount of effort that needs to be put in, but we actually have to work together to succeed. And even if we all do our best and work together as much as possible, South Africa can't do enough to mitigate what's happening in the rest of the world. We have to see Atlantis as a node that can set an example for countries outside of South Africa about how to use an industrialization to create a green economy to make sure that the planet can survive. Thanks.
Should I give that? Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, and I've heard most of the questions and the comments. I just want to give a quick feedback, and I think particularly to the women empowerment speaker. We've got a real-life example of how we're changing the face of engagement in Saldanha Bay at the moment. Saldanha Bay, in establishing the Industrial Development Zone, has gone through exactly the same challenges that we have here. Multiple stakeholders, everybody believes that their turf is not being protected or not being looked after. And so what we've done in Saldanha Bay is we've got, and I think it's about 13 or 14 business associations. I mean, can you believe it, in a town like Saldanha Bay, you've got 14 different business associations, of which they are cross-cutting. And they've now formed into a single, together with big business and together with the Industrial Development Zone, the Saldanha Bay Industrial Development Company, a Saldanha Bay business portal. And that portal has got, as I explained earlier, all of the interest groups on the supply side, all of the interest groups on the demand side, and they're all working together so that all opportunities are shared with everybody. There's no secret deals being done. All of the deals are vested on the portal. All of the available resources are vested on the portal. And I think that probably is an example or a methodology that can be used here, particularly to overcome the kind of challenges that we're talking about, where certain groups are excluded from opportunities because we'll now know everything. So what we are promoting is a complete open society, where there are no vested interests or vested groups, but everybody knows what the opportunities are and everybody works together to ensure the success of the project. And I think that's something I do want to talk to the team about, that we can actually learn some lessons. One other thing before I close, and that is, this is not a silver bullet. This is not going to fix all of the social ills that we have either in Atlantis or in the broader Cape Town or indeed in the country. But it is a catalyst that provides hope, and that is something we need to lay hold on and something that we need to support. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I'll be very short. To the lady there, the lady who was speaking on behalf of women, look, I'll give you a challenge. Yeah, I'll give you a challenge. I'll give you my card.
You can give it personally to me.
Yes.
Everybody can see it already.
Yes. Yes. I'll give you a card, and I will commit myself to send here a chief director who is responsible for women empowerment, who will come. Oh, there's a picture now. Yeah. Your Excellency, Councillor, I'm committing the DTI. We will send a chief director here. It's a woman who will come and speak to the women of the area on how they will participate in such projects and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And now we're just going to discuss the way forward, and then we're going to move to closure.
Thanks, Prof. I think, in a nutshell, we got a sense, Prof, that the Atlantis community is very happy with the initiative. And as DTI, we're quite excited as well, because we see this as a catalyst towards the development of the broader Atlantis and the Western Cape at large. And I think from here, there's going to be a report emanating from this gathering, which will form part of the broader consultation process that we're currently undertaking. There are comments that we've received. We received comments from the Chamber of Commerce as well. So once the deadline has passed, we're going to consolidate a report, a final report, together with the submission for our minister's consideration. And once that is done, the submission will then be taken to Cabinet for final approval. And once that is done, the SEZ will be designated, and then we'll issue a license. But parallel to that, I think I need to re-emphasize that even our minister has indicated to Western Cape provincial government that while this process is underway, there are a number of things that we as government, the three spheres of government, need to work on. The first one was around the issue of master planning, taking into cognizance that the SEZ is more than just an industrial park. There are a number of people that have mentioned, a number of support systems that go into the SEZ. They spoke about traffic lights, they spoke about housing, they spoke about education, the recreational facilities, hospital. Those are going to be taken into cognizance. We're going to be working with the provincial government to ensure that we develop a broader master plan that cater all the regional needs, all the challenges that we're confronted with here. The second area is investment promotion. Of course, the SEZ is about ensuring that we attract investors into Atlantis, which will eventually catalyze on many other things, including the SMME development. We need to ensure that we have strategies around how do we then integrate our SMMEs in the locality into the mainstream economy. And the last one was around the skills development. So I'm just saying that while we're busy with the process of designation, there's a work underway that is undertaken by both the city, the province, and the DTI. So, Prof, in a nutshell, that's the way forward. And I believe we should be calling the province very soon insofar as the designation.
Thanks very much. Lance is going to do the thank yous. He's going to do the thank yous, but also just to also specifically remind everyone, if you wish to make further input into the process, make written submissions to the DTI. And immediately after this, there will be an opportunity to network, to hug, kiss one another, say goodbyes, swap cards, and so on. Use the opportunity then also to get information as to where you need to send information that you wish to submit. I'm going to hand over to Lance, who will do the thank yous and also the conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Williams. I firstly want to thank you, Professor Williams, for running a very good meeting and keeping everything on time. And I certainly don't intend to upset that by speaking for half an hour now. But I think you've done a great job, and I think this has been a really enticing kind of engagement that has happened here today. I also want to thank all of the people here, not just for being here today and for answering the questions, but for all the hard work that has gone in to get us to here today. Because believe me, you haven't seen the kind of work that has had to go on behind the scenes in terms of dealing with what's been very complex issues. And I also want to say to the speaker who said that you don't like coming to meetings, I share your sentiment. I don't like going to meetings either. Unfortunately, my job demands that I go to meetings all the time. But today, I don't see this as a meeting. This, in fact, is a celebration. And it's a celebration for a number of reasons. The first reason is you've got 3 tiers of government sitting up here together. And generally what you see in our politics in South Africa is a lot of fighting that takes place. You have a lot of people saying, oh, government doesn't do anything, or they're all fighting with each other. Well, today we can show that actually government does work. Actually, we are able to work across all 3 spheres of government, across party lines, to actually bring real benefits to the community. So I think that's the first point to really celebrate today. The second point to celebrate is that, as Mike was saying, you know, one of the biggest challenges that humanity is going to face over the next few decades is in fact climate change. And we're already starting to see the impacts of that down on a local level here in Cape Town with the drought that we're facing. And one of the best ways, in fact, that we can respond to that challenge is by really accelerating the pace of the green economy and making sure that we get renewable energy in place as far as possible across the world. And now with this designation of the SEZ being a clean tech SEZ, Atlantis will in fact be at the center of what is going to be one of the greatest challenges that we face as a planet. And I think that that is something to celebrate, that we are going to see activity take place in here that is really going to aid the world as a whole. And I think that is something that we can certainly celebrate too. And, you know, part of that as well is also the fact that we are going to see massive job creation come through that. But that is something that is going to take time. I think we have to make sure that we don't expect to see jobs suddenly materialize in the next month or so. I think it will take time, but I think that the momentum will start to build, and what we'll start to see is that Atlantis will grow as an area, more people will come in here, more opportunities will arise, and these are all good things. But if we want to take advantage of them, I think as Councillor Russ was saying, you really need to come together as a community, you need to identify the opportunities, and you need to fight for those opportunities. Government can only do so much, but it really is up to the businesses and communities and individuals in Atlantis to really take advantage of those opportunities. And then lastly, just to say that there will also be major infrastructure investment that goes into Atlantis. The city has already spent a lot of money, as has already been said, on electricity upgrades and various things around that. But now with the SEZ designation, there will also be more money from national to in fact put into the infrastructure of Atlantis. So certainly those traffic lights will be built. We'll just have to have a debate about where those lights should be. But I think that we can really expect to see great things from the SEZ designation, and I really want to thank everyone for coming down here today, for bringing the good news here. And this is not the end of the road. This is the beginning of what is going to be a really exciting journey, and I think we are all committed to working together to make this as big a success as possible. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for that.
Thank you very much, everyone. Please go and enjoy some of the refreshments. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
Thank you.